we come with these programs. They come installed in us. And I just searched my soul and said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because I need to heal. And I can't heal if I'm stressed out about how I'm paying the mortgage next month.
Welcome to the Be Better broadcast. Today, we are joined by Stephanie O'Connell, who is a former Fortune 500 senior leader and has been changing the way that people and organizations change for over 3 decades. In 2020, Stephanie made significant changes in her own life that have reawakened passion for helping others to activate their greatest potential, to overcome adversity, and to thrive with uncertainty. She is a transformational speaker, a coach, an author, and the founder of Positive Change Acceleration. And today we're going to talk about her process specifically to heal your past and free your future. It's going to be a very fun conversation that will help you to navigate change in whatever journey in life that you are traveling on right now. So if you take away even just one piece of advice or strategy or insight, or maybe we simply made you smile today on the broadcast, all that we ask is you share this show and conversation with just one other person who could use it as well. You are the reason that we have grown to over 300 episodes in the 2 years that we've been around, because you are the best part of the Be Better team. So without further ado, let's talk to Stephanie O'Connell about her experience journey and how you can move forward into your future. Stephanie, it's great to have you on the show.
Well, hi, Brandon. Thanks very much. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you all the way over in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is very, very cool.
Right. And I think it's in the middle. You know, we're splitting the distance between the coasts, you and I.
I love that. No, it's cool. I'm on the east, you're in the middle. And like we were mentioning before the show, we're only having this conversation really because 2020 happened. And I think when I say that, we don't need to say what happened, because that will get us, taken off the search engine for the most part. Yep. But we know that much changed in 2020, and we wouldn't be having this conversation if that didn't happen, because we talked about how the world was really opened up during that time. And it was a time of great change. And even now we're going through a time of great change, and you made a lot of changes in 2020. So you left us on kind of a cliffhanger in that introduction there. What were those big changes that you made for yourself in 2020?
Oh my goodness. Changes everywhere, as we know, but it feels like it absolutely accelerated its pace during that time. And so a couple of changes that happened in 2020, and there was always a lead up, right? But I knew at the end of 2019 that the way I was living my life was unsustainable. I was burnt out from lots of corporate commitments, my energy raising twins that are now 17 years old, married, moved to a new city for a corporate job, even of itself, got a dog, all those things are kind of, in a way, disruptors, even if we choose them. And then in 2020, I was faced with a restructuring in the company I was with, Harley-Davidson, and they needed to make some tough choices, like a lot of companies that, during the pandemic, consumers were changing their needs and behaviors. And so the company had to make some choices. I was in corporate learning and development, talent management, and they made some changes, and my role was restructured out. And actually, at the time, I totally understand why the company made that decision. And if I had made that, I would have made the same decision, to be honest. Wow. So I totally support it because they needed to do what they needed to do. And they needed to get back to basics from an employee human resources perspective. But that left me with, what do I want to do now? And so this was literally July 2020, the last day of July 2020 was my last day. And I had a little bit of room, 2 months to think before I needed income stream. So as you know, having a household, having a family, we develop a lifestyle of commitments. And I had grown accustomed to a corporate salary and benefits that was no longer flowing in the way it had been. And that was really scary for me. Because I had always thought the way to have stability and security from my childhood, which was very tumultuous and didn't have those things, was get a steady job, have the benefits. They have a 401k, all those pieces. And I spent my entire career inside corporations, and the safety and security at the time and those years that it provided for me. Now, really, what is safe and secure? Right? I think what I'm learning in all of this is what is safe and secure is what's inside us. Who we are, our energy, our thoughts, our skills, our capabilities is the portable safety and security. But I grew up thinking I needed to go get it from somewhere else. I needed to have it from an organization or a structure like that. And I was fiercely independent. I had messages from my past of don't ever depend on a man, which is interesting given, when you look at generations.
Yes.
It was a bit of a backlash from probably our parents' generation, which was potentially the role of a woman was to get into relationship, tend to household, et cetera, from a very traditional, stereotypical way.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always said, what I was taught was have your own checking account, always be independent, never rely on anyone else for anything ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so there's goodness in that to an extent. But what that can be is very isolating from a relationship standpoint. Because I don't want to be interdependent in any way with anybody or anything. That can be very, very isolating. And so at one point, that level of resilience started to not work anymore because I was losing connection with friends, family, because I was so fiercely like, I've got it. And you know what? Sometimes we need help. We need community. We need to be out in the world with others and lean on each other. And so it's so odd to me that I was surrounded by others in companies, but yet felt very alone and independent in how I was going about my work. And realized coming out of it when we all kind of dispersed, into our own individual places, I realized how much community meant to me and how much I missed it.
Yeah. Because you probably had that
out.
community. You probably had that inside of the corporate structures that you'd been a part of, and you were in those for so long that it just became something that was there. But then when it wasn't there, it's almost like a giant piece of your life that maybe you weren't even 100% aware of, or took, what's the phrase? You took it for granted almost.
Yes.
This community that was around you. Would you say that that's pretty?
Yeah,
accurate?
it's like the water in the fishbowl, right? We're swimming in the fishbowl. We don't realize the water's there.
Wow.
Right, but it's there, right? And so I did take it for granted, and then we disperse and we become isolated, and now connection takes a different form. And I was not really excited about all this social media. Now I spend a lot of time in front of, my laptop camera to connect with people. But it wasn't my preferred way to connect. I missed in person. I missed that connection. And then to make a choice to do my own business, which I felt I really had to address my physical burnout. I really had been, pushing myself to achieve, succeed, get the next promotion, get the next big project, be the go-to person, be accessible, be a team player. All those things were starting to take its toll on me physically, mentally, emotionally. And some of the precursor was I was using some unhealthy things to cope with that.
Interesting.
So in 2019, I was drinking every day to take the pressure off. Right. So a glass of wine, which turned into more than one glass of wine. And so 2019, the precursor was, I have to stop this. This is not okay. This is not how I want to live my life. I grew up with that. I grew up with household members drinking. This was not and almost like, wow, how did I make this decision?
Wow.
Whoa. And then it got me thinking about, wow, I believe that we are all a bit predisposed to genetic patterns that are passed down through our lineage. So if, grandma used to worry, then mom is a worrier, then I'm a worrier. Alcohol as a way to cope with stress was in my lineage. And so it was just an easy go-to pickup. And then I realized it wasn't healthy anymore. And I am so fortunate that I don't have any lasting physical effects from all of that. Like some people can really do a toll on their body. But what it was doing was it was this moment of, oh my gosh, is this as good as it gets? Like literally, I'm going to wake up every day. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to be in this stress container that I was choosing and creating a bit for myself, the pressure and how I handled the pressure. And then I would come home to take the pressure off, almost like a pressure cooker, release valve. And something healthier might have been a walk or a meditation or I don't know, something else other than a glass of wine. But that was my choice. And then do it all over again. And then do it all over again every day for years. And I thought, wow, I cannot believe that this is it. Like, I cannot believe that we work so hard and I get to my 50s and this is going to be the rest of my life for 40 years. It was like, no way. So I didn't believe it. I'm like, there has to be something better. There has to be something more. There has to be something that's more fulfilling out there. And so then I started my journey of exploring energy and some spiritual practices like mindfulness and meditation and somatic movement for the body. And, to add to my change management, corporate development, personal development experience. And my mind was just expanded to a different way to be in this world. And it is so much better. So when you talk about be better, for me, it was get back to the me inside, which is where my safety and security is, and to unlearn these stress responses to life.
Yeah. So let's unpack a lot of these different things. And first of all, congratulations on these giant shifts that you've made in your life, because there's a lot there that you just mentioned that I want to dive into the individual pieces, because I know there's going to be a lot of value inside each of those individual pieces. So congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask you specifically about the time that you were in after the restructure and you realizing I have to find a new opportunity, because 2 months to discover a lot of these different things, to discover a different way to be, to really unpack what you want to do next. 2 months isn't a long time. Like I've been off the last 2 months because quote unquote off, I've stepped back a bit just because our baby son was just born, and
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And he's almost 2 years, he's almost 2 months old now, and it flew by. So 2 months isn't a long time. Like what did you do after the restructure in order to really discover what's next for you, to dive into these different energy healings and these different philosophies? Like, how did you move forward? Because I know people listening who just went through a restructure on their own and they're wondering, what do I do next? So let's speak to those people. How do you decide what to do next moving forward?
Yep. Wow. Great questions. Wow. And I would say you're right. 2 months flies by, especially when you're sleep deprived with a child.
That's very true.
Yep. Yes, it was not a lot of time. So the first thing I had to get a handle on was all the fear of financial security. And it's very, very real. And I didn't have a lot in savings, I thought. And so I felt this stress response, like building, but I also knew I was not able to hop into another corporate situation. I was just too frazzled and too burnt out. So my decision was to say, I need to figure out how to pay the basics, like the mortgage and food and some of those. It really went back to the basics and look at kind of anything that we were spending that maybe could take a pause or a hold. So it was a bit of let's do an honest assessment of what it really takes for us to live the way we're living and where we're living and all of that. So that was just an important step to get grounded on where are you in your financial picture. Now, I made potentially a risky decision for some, that I decided to borrow off my 401k. And my logic there was that not a lot was returning into that at the time, given the environment. And I believed I was a good return on the investment.
Mm.
And I have been contributing into that for 30 plus years. Now, granted, I was not of an age where I could do that without some penalties. And I just searched my soul and said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because I need to heal. And I can't heal if I'm stressed out about how I'm paying the mortgage next month.
True.
It's not going to work. And so you get resourceful, I guess. You get resourceful about, and I did look into, could a family member help me out? You know, what could I adjust? All those pieces. And I did look into all of that. And I thought, you know what? Maybe this is where this fierce independence is going to pay off. That I have been working for years, contributing into this 401k. I'm going to go ahead and draw from it. And I actually talked to a financial advisor, and interestingly, in 2021, various lending institutions were being very helpful in this regard. And there was a plan at the time where you weren't penalized if you paid that money back over a certain period of time. So that was the mechanics that I had to figure out first and foremost, was how was I going to manage that and get resourceful? How was I going to do it? It's amazing how you can call various lending institutions and ask for lower interest rate, we can be at choice when we're affected this way. And
how did that go when you called and you asked for that overall?
They were like, great. They have these programs, and it was not unusual to lose your job to that situation. And unfortunately, I think it's just becoming more common that companies tighten their belt and make these decisions. And more of us are finding ourselves in a situation where we no longer have that continuity of income. I did collect unemployment. I did. I had no issue with that. I didn't have a pride, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm at the point. I'm like, again, I have been a taxpayer contributing into systems for over 30 years. I'm in a place right now where I need to draw. It's not forever, but and it's my turn to be able to avail myself of some of these things that I have personally been contributing into all these years. And once I made that decision, I just could breathe.
Yes.
Because it's really hard to make good decisions when your stomach is in a ball of stress and your breathing is shallow and you're like, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to make this work? And so that was huge.
Yep.
Then I thought, okay, I know how to coach. I know how to do change management. I'll just do side projects. I'll just get this up and running. And so I formed a LLC, which is pretty straightforward to do. In most states, I actually used an online filing form to set up the mechanics of the business.
Me too.
And it wasn't hard, and it was pretty straightforward. And so I put that in place so that when I started talking to people and I could pick up a project or I could do this. But I also got very resourceful on what skills do I have?
Yeah.
And there are all kinds of what I think people call side hustles that you can start to do in these interim periods, or maybe alongside what you're doing today, that just think about your skill set and how might you be able to benefit someone else who's willing to pay for that kind of service. There's everything from you can drive elderly people to medical appointments. You can grocery shop for people. There are all kinds of things that you can do to help others with a skill capability that you have. And again, I say this in the interim. It doesn't have to be like the next career move. I just want to keep contributing.
Yeah.
I want to make an impact in someone's life, and I can offer my skills right now in doing that.
It
And so
can
I
be in
thought,
addition as well to your
oh my
career. You
gosh,
can do that in addition
totally.
to that.
I didn't even think about this. And so now I'm so curious, like things come to me in the internet. I saw a feed. I never thought about this. Traveling notaries are
Hmm.
making money. People want to close on a house. You get certified to be a notary. It doesn't cost a lot of money. You get your stamp, and then mortgage companies and lenders need these people to drive and show up at somebody's house so they can sign and notarize their closing.
Yes.
I mean,
My
you could
mother, for an example,
totally
by the
do that.
way, I've been in a situation where I've needed a notary, but
Yes.
I wasn't able to find one or go to one, and I needed one to come to me. And my aunt, actually, I learned was one, as she came to me, and I tried to pay her. She didn't take it, but that is a great service. But my mom was a waitress for years and years and years and years and years, and then COVID happened. And then she had to figure it out because restaurants were closing down.
No?
So she started doing the Spark deliveries through
Yes.
Walmart, which is kind of similar to DoorDash, but honestly, much better. It's much better pay.
Yeah.
And she delivers groceries to people. And she's making $30 to $40 an hour doing that, to the point where now she hasn't had to go back to waiting tables because she has enough to sustain her lifestyle. And then my father is the main breadwinner of the family. But from what you're saying, step one was survival. You had to figure
Survival.
out how
Totally.
to
Mhm.
alleviate this stress of what am I going to do next? And that's key, right? Because if
Yep.
you have that stress over you, it's going to be very difficult to take that next step. And then step two, which is very important, is to assess the skills that you have and
Exactly.
ask yourself, how can I use these skills in order to operate, whether it's a side hustle or start a business, or what roles back in the corporate landscape or whatever it might be would be best suited for the skills that I've developed throughout my career.
Exactly. And I would say what is shifting in many companies from what I hear, because I still have a lot of friends and colleagues within the corporation, is this whole idea of the 1099 contract employee. So oddly, the way some people manage this in companies is headcount, permanent headcount, if permanent is even a word anymore in business, but established headcount, let me put it that way, has become a challenge. But there's other funding that can pay contractors. I know it seems a little bit silly, but I think that companies more and more will bring in contracting resources to do special projects. And so I actually did sign up with an agency that specializes in placing change management professionals on projects in other companies. And so last year, I worked on a change management project for a large technology company that was rolling out a new system internally through a merger and acquisition. And I know how to do that. I know how to create, learner education and communication and all of these things. And it's something I did in my career 20 years ago, and that's okay. It still has value. I still want to help people be successful through change, and I had to roll up my sleeves and maybe create some job aids and some things that I hadn't done in a while, but I flexed that muscle, dusted it off, and was able to contribute. And so there are organizations, I've recently learned of one called Flex Jobs online, and these, again, are for people who want to either supplement their existing situation with a side hustle where you can, like, basically sign up and you can see projects.
Hmm.
If you have any like graphic animation capability, there are all kinds of projects out there that people are looking to hire freelance people who have that capability to create a logo, to do design, to
Yeah.
format and make handouts look
Social media.
glossier. Oh my gosh, there's such opportunity. And so it is, like you said, assess. And also, I encourage it to be something you are natural at or good at and you don't mind doing. This is
Yes.
not about, oh my gosh, I'm now going to have to go do this again. Like, did I like the idea that I was going to be doing something I had done 20 years ago in my career? Initially, it was a bit, I got a little grumpy about it. I got to be honest. I'm like, really? really, really, this is where I am in my life. I'm going back to what I was. And then I'm like, but it's okay. Again, it's not forever. I'm not going back forever. I'm going back to lend a skill and talent. So here's the next thing I think, Brendan, is your mindset around it is
Mm.
so important, because I could go into it being, the world stinks and isn't this awful? And now I'm 20 years are lost and I'm back doing what I was doing in my 30s and I can't even believe it. I can take that approach to my energy and my emotion or my mindset, or I can reframe it and say, this is temporary. This is resourcefulness. You still know how to do that. And then I actually get a little competitive with myself and I go, impress yourself.
Yeah.
Show yourself that you still have this, that you can do it. Or drive. I got a car. I'm paying a lease payment on it. Why not go take elderly people or any people that don't have transportation to a medical appointment? Just seems to be more of an elder care thing where I'm living here now. But why not? Why wouldn't I lend that resource that I am paying a monthly payment on to do that?
Sure.
And so I think it's our mindset, ego. I'm collecting unemployment. Now, again, I was, not anymore, but I
Yeah.
was. And I think we can really do a number on ourselves up here that this is a bad thing. This is wrong. Look at me. I'm dipping down. I'm just going backwards. I can't believe this. Yes, you can look at it that way. And you could look at it as a stepping stone to open it up. And now this whole idea of multiple lines of income is very appealing to me. Whereas in the past, I wanted all my eggs in one basket, Brandon. Get the company, get the 401k, get the benefits, the one salary. But look how risky that can be.
Yep.
And so now I've got a couple of lines to my business. Like you said, I coach, I do energy healing, I do change management projects. I have some other passion projects I'm looking into. And I love it because then I'm not solely dependent on one stream. I have multiple streams and they're all varied and interesting to me. I don't think I would want to do any one of them completely.
Mm.
Maybe. I do love the coaching, I have to say. If I could just make that the full thing, which it just isn't yet. So when you say, it takes time, it's 3 years in the making and it's growing and growing, but it's not at the stage that it is the one source. But given everything I've learned, I don't know if one stream of income is a good idea for me
Yeah.
anymore.
I understand that. Yeah, 100%. And you can have one overarching vision and have many different vehicles inside of
Yes.
that vision. Like you as an author, you've got a book, you've
Yep.
got programs, you've got
Yes.
coaching. So if the coaching stops for whatever reason, you've still got your book that's earning you
Exactly.
money. Or if you have a job out there, but you're also driving for bringing the elderly to their appointments, or if you're utilizing a greater skill such as change management on top of your job, then if your job's taken away from you, you still have an income there. This is why I talk a lot on this show with people about the importance of building your brand.
Yes.
Especially if you're still part of a company or organization. Because when I was at the highest levels of leadership inside of Verizon Wireless, I never had anyone say to me, hey, you should start building your brand outside of the company. I thought that that was what I had. That was what I was doing. And I did that for a long time until I asked myself, what's next? Like, I don't want to own a market of Verizon stores. Who knows where Verizon's going? Like,
Right.
what do I want to do next? And that's when I found a community, like what you said.
Yes.
I found the National Speaker Association, which is a great organization to be a part of if you want to be a speaker, trainer, consultant, coach. And I found a community of people who were like, Brandon, like, you can do so much more than just this company. And I found them in 2017.
Wow.
And since then, 2019 is when I went online, filed the paperwork to start my business, Be Better Industries. And now everything has changed because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And you didn't know this world existed until one world was taken away from you. So it's almost like that happened for you, even amidst the struggles at times and the uncertainty. Now you can look back and connect those dots and realize that happened for you, because if that didn't happen, you likely wouldn't be making the impact that you're making now.
Absolutely. And I think I was burnt out. So who knows how my health might have declined. I was not on a good trajectory from a personal stamina, physicalness. I was down, depression, all those things while I had the job, so
Yeah.
it's not always, I just wish I had learned some of these techniques and approaches earlier in my career so that I could have managed the stressors and the stress response through some healthier ways. And I just didn't learn them growing up. I don't remember learning, and maybe it was in my field and it just didn't come to me, or I didn't see it. You know how we see differently once. Maybe there were people who knew about mindfulness and meditation and other ways to release stress than just numb it out, which was kind of what I was talking about. And then that's the thing too, is I'm very passionate about learning how to manage our emotions, because our emotions are energy. And I think that's why I'm a bit into this heal your past. I grew up where you stuffed your emotions inside. You don't feel them. Others maybe grew up with explosive anger happening around them, which felt scary and unpredictable. My home, you knew you were in trouble when you got the silent treatment. So silence was scary, right? So think about that, just your own upbringing around conflict, and around intense emotions of any kind. We take those behaviors with us, and then things get a bit more challenging in life, right? We're progressing, and we get bigger challenges, which potentially are bigger stressors. And if I am learning to bottle it all up inside, I'm an ulcer in the making. Now, luckily, I don't have one. I skipped that experience. But think about all of that energy we're trapping inside of us that is swirling around with all the hormones and the cortisol and all the things that are not good for us. And then we're upset. So then we look for a release, as Simon Sinek will say, a dopamine, hit, which
Yeah.
could be, I'm going to binge watch Glee on Netflix back to back for 5 hours or whatever, which is, kind of because we can't hold it in anymore. We
Yeah.
cannot hold it in anymore. So literally that straw that broke the camel's back is that we are so pent up with all these unprocessed, still open emotions. They're like tabs on a computer. So imagine you have all these open tabs on your computer of anger response, stress response, feeling humiliated, embarrassed, guilt, whatever, and we haven't processed them. So they're like open tabs glitching you up in your day to day because you haven't closed those tabs. You haven't learned how to process them energetically, emotionally, and in your mindset. And so we're like, and I know when my laptop starts acting weird, I start closing tabs. I'm like, what do I have open here? Or the phone battery is dying. How many open things did I leave open on there that I just need to swipe and close out?
Or restart it completely.
Totally. And we're similar. I'm not trying to say we're machines at all, but we keep a lot of open tabs, which is, it takes a lot of energy to kind of keep all those tabs running in the background and the foreground. And so if we have not closed those tabs all the way back to, and I'm not saying we don't have to relive it. That's the cool part. We just need to learn how to close the tab. So I don't have to go back and feel embarrassed again in 8th grade when I couldn't remember my lines in the school play. I don't have to re-experience that, but I have to go, oh, yeah, you never processed that. Let's process that. Let's close it and let's get it out of your mind and out of your body and out of your energy. So it's
So
of a thing.
I'd like to just mention what you talked about earlier at the very beginning, because this goes along with that. You mentioned that you were burned out in your career, and in order to give yourself that self-care or that dopamine release that Simon Sinek has mentioned,
Mhm.
you resorted to a decision that might not have been the healthiest decision. You
Right.
started drinking the glass of wine, and then you
Yep.
started drinking a little bit more than that. And to you, that was a very harmless thing. But if you went to yourself 5 years before then and showed that version of you what you were doing now, that version of you might have been saying, Stephanie, what are you doing?
Right.
Why are you doing this when you could be going on a walk, you could be meditating, you
Right.
could be listening to a book, you could be doing anything else. But you mentioned that our past experiences with our parents or our past community or upbringing can determine, in DNA, you mentioned genetics, can help you to make a choice that might not be as great for you because of what has been chosen in the past or when you were brought up. So you believe, and this is a question, you believe that your past can help you to make certain decisions, including decisions that aren't great for you.
Yes. And the epigenetics research will show. So here's how it happens. It's in our subconscious. So we're predisposed to some of these patterns. We're predisposed to it. And so it's almost like having an operating system. I'm just going to use computers again because I think so many people are used to computers now. It's like there's this program running in the background that you're not even aware of. And it's the use substances to get your dopamine hit. I mean, it's not that technical, right? Or avoid conflict at all costs. Stuff your emotions. What are some other ones? Food is love. We had overeating in my house.
Yeah, me too.
I want to show you love. I'm going to bake you a cake. That's my love for you, right? That's how I express love. I'll make you a pot roast. It was in my family. And so we come with these programs. They come installed in us. Let's put it that way. When you kind of buy a laptop and there might be an operating system.
Yeah.
And so the more we're aware that that's the operating system we came with, we can override it. We can upgrade it. We can say, I don't want to play the food is love, I'm sad, get me the ice cream program anymore. But if I'm not conscious about it, and I'm just like reaching into the freezer and 3 spoons in before I realize, what am I doing? Which I would, and I would trade off drinking, eating, which one was going to win that day for the stress release valve. And eating, I think, is actually really tough because we do need to eat to survive. It's just, what is the balance of choices I'm making? And I have yet to find, Brandon, maybe you know someone who uses salad to feel better when they're emotionally stressed. People don't reach for the arugula in their veggie drawer when they're stressed. We reach for sugar, right? We reach for, or salt or savory. We reach for something that in some way is going to satisfy us somehow or calm us. I mean, if you find that person, I just want to meet them.
It's funny you mention that. It's funny you mention that because, first of all, I was that person for most of my life, more of my life than not arugula. No, the opposite. I grew up in a household where we had the chips and we had the cereal and the milk and the donuts and the pastries and everything. But my mentor now for the past 3 years, his name is Di, and he's been on the show a couple times. He trained himself. He was also the fat kid growing up, just like me. And now he's in his mid 40s and he's one of the most in shape people I've ever met. He's this very successful business owner and health coach and all these things. And he does reach for the salad in the afternoon. He wakes up and he reaches for the green drink. And he says how those things are his release because now they remind him of who he used to be and who he wants to be moving forward. So will you reach for those things instinctually to feel better? No, unless you train yourself that those are the things that will make you feel good long term.
Right.
And he closed out the tab, like what you mentioned, and he downloaded a new browser entirely.
Totally. And we can. And that's the cool part about neuroplasticity. I get so geeked out with the neurosciences, and I'm not a science person unless I can figure out how it makes sense to me in the real world. I can't just study it for the sake of studying it. Hats off to those that do. But I'm like, we can rewire the brain. That's what's so exciting is we can install new programs. We can shift those underlying programs in the brain, and we can shift them in our bodies. So one of the big stress responses is the nervous system. So we come with, installed is when I'm threatened, and this goes back to, you're in the tribe, saber-toothed tiger is coming to you like real primal. Am I gonna flee? Am I going to fight? Or am I going to play dead, which is freeze? Which is going to be my option? We kind of come with this nervous system trauma threat response in us. So what's happened as humans is we don't have saber-toothed tigers, but we have a pop quiz in high school, right? Or whatever we consider the threat. And so what's happened is we learn to consider everyday things threats. And we fire off the stress response, which then might have us reaching for something to calm us down. And there's actually exercises you can do to bring your nervous system back into regulation. And you can Google them. I found one person named the nervous system ninja. What's so cool about this is like there's just so much out there. You can YouTube, you can find a resource, just to say, whoa, why am I like really stressed out about this? And again, I believe we come with a certain nervous system setting in us, like, again, the opening program out of the box, and you can change it. You can shift it, but it takes focus, right? To say, I'm not going to view the pop quiz anymore as a threat, right? And that's the hindsight of being older. I look at my teenagers and I see their stress response, and I'm like, and I want to say, in the grand scheme of things, this is not worth this much cortisol. But in that moment it is, and it's very real. And so I don't want in any way to discount our lived experiences as very real. Our traumas are real.
Yeah.
It's more creating tools and approaches in us to shift that auto response to it.
So I'd like to ask you that specifically when it comes to developing consciousness around these different things in our life, where by being conscious of them, we can help to close the tab and open the new browser or restart the software entirely. What would you say is one strategy that you can share with people today to help them close out these unprocessed emotions or experiences and move forward?
Yeah. So here's my go-tos. I imagine that there's an imaginary pause button. So if you think about like pausing a video or pausing this thing of music, just take a moment, hit the pause button. And then I go to my body first. And this took me a while to kind of come to that. This is actually better for me than the thought process, but you're going to touch on 3 areas and you can do them in whatever sequence works for you. I go to my body and go, where am I feeling this stress or strain? And for me, most of the time, it's a clenching in my abdomen above my belly button. It's just like, and I'm contracting, I'm constricting. I'm kind of going into this closed off state from the stressor. So you pause and you notice. You pause and you notice what's happening in my body right now. Some people lock their knees. Some people feel their shoulders just crunch up. Maybe your neck starts hurting. Maybe you start getting a headache, whatever it is, and start breathing into that part of your body. So I'm going to breathe into my clenching stomach, and I'm just, all right, it's getting my bangs out of my face. This is real. I'm a real person. Breathe into that body and just tell it it's okay. Like in your mind, you don't have to say it out loud, but just go, We're safe. It's okay. It's all good. Just soothe it through breath. And with each breath, imagine it just the constriction opening, like just softening. Like I don't have to grip life so hard. It's like gripping the steering wheel, right? Just relax your grip, ease your jaw if you're clenching it, just get my body, the parasympathetic nervous system calm. How do you know you've done it? Okay. And there are certain things you can do. Like there's one exercise I learned from the ninja lady. I should know her name. I'm sorry, ninja lady. You what do you call this? Interlace fingers and you put them behind your neck. If your shoulders will do this, please don't do this if your shoulders won't. And you imagine there's a clock in front of you with like 12, 6, and you're just going to move your eyes over to the 3. Like what would be 3 o'clock? Not your whole head. And you wait. And you'll either swallow, which I just did, take a deeper breath, and you've reset your nervous system.
Very interesting.
That's the Control-Alt-Delete. That's the Control-Alt-Delete for your nervous system. And there's many more like that where you can just, boom, we're calm now, we're safe, boom. And I'm just grabbing these. It's called nervous system regulation.
That's powerful.
So that then stops the cortisol. That then gets us to pause the fight, flight, freeze response. And now I can be at choice. Because if we're prior to that, we're just primal response. Primal response. I'm either going to fight, which some people choose to do. The bullies out there, right? That's just their primal. I'm going to fight. I'm going to run. I was a fleer or play dead. Freeze. We each have a go-to, right? In certain situations. So it's going to get that out of the mix. Out of the mix. So we're going to get that done. Now, get curious. So pause, deal with the body. 2, get curious. Why did that trigger me? What's going on? Why was that email, this, that so upsetting? But you need to ask that curious question from a calm nervous system. And then you can replay, because that reminded me of something else. It was like whatever, the straw that hit the camel's back, or the triggering thing that actually is hyperlinking you to an unclosed tab around anxiety. And so we pause, we figure out where in our body we're feeling it, we breathe into it and regulate the nervous system. Then we get curious. What is that? And is it really true? Is this really happening? Or am I just bringing in stress from a prior situation? And then say, what do you want to do? And then ask yourself, do I want to stop doing this activity? Do I feel like I can continue this activity? But be at choice, because when we are just in our automatic response, we're not at choice. We're at the will of our primal wiring.
Yes.
Right? And so let's play out the food. Okay. Let's do it, because this is so in my family, this wiring. So something happens that's upsetting to me. I don't know. Let's say I don't get the project I was hoping for. And I was really hoping for that income flow because it was going to do all these other things for me. And so I'm upset. And I start to feel the constriction. For me, again, it's in that upper abdomen, like, how are you going to do it? I mean, the kids want to go to college. How are you going to, and I'm starting to get worked up. And then I hit the pause button. I might do this reset. I might do some havening is another activity to calm your nervous system, where I just go, okay, Stephanie, just calm out of this. Like, let's dissipate that block and say, okay, now I want to go get food. Mm-hmm. I'm calm, but I still want to go get food to placate me because whatever reason. And I'm like, okay, you're going to stay here for 15 more minutes. And if you still want the ice cream after that, you can have it. But you're not going to have it when you're still in this stress response.
Yes.
So it's just a matter of, and that's how I stopped the wine, drinking the wine,
Interesting.
because you just have to surf the craving, surf the wave of the craving,
And
right?
how long did you follow that process for and practice that
I still,
until it
well,
became easier? When did it become
it
easier?
definitely gets easier after 30 days. I will say in 90 days is a great time when you really have developed a new neural pathway. So what the brain, my understanding of neuroscience, and I'm sure your listening base has more expertise in this area than I do, but the idea is the brain does a cycle every 90 days of pruning, where it cleans up what hasn't been used. It kind of reinforces what has been used. So if I go 90 days and I keep interrupting this, go reach for the food, go reach for the food while I'm stressed, guess what? The brain is going to go, hey, this like grab food for comfort halfway is not really getting used anymore. Let's fill it in. Let's
Yeah.
clean up here. Let's clean up here. And this one over here, which is like, she's doing this thing called the pause button. Well, I don't know what that is, but it's getting a lot more use. Let's nurture that. And so the brain actually will help you for it to really become more of your nature to respond in the new way, the desired way, the way you are choosing to respond. But
Wow.
I would say I do feel better in a good 2 to 3 weeks, but that's when we want to give up because we feel like we've mastered it. And that's when you have to keep going. Because we always get to like that 21-day mark and we're like, okay, done, right? They say 21 days habit. But no. You may, but you're still very much thinking about it. I want to get to it's the new automatic way to do it, like your friend who the new automatic way is I'm going to go make a green smoothie, or I'm going to make that. I believe takes 90 days.
Oh, yeah.
Interrupting the old and adopting the new.
And having that patience in order to recognize this will take time in order for me to make this change, and having that grace to allow yourself to take that time to make that change is powerful. And this is work. Like, this is
It
hard
is.
work, and it's consciousness that's required. And by the way, those strategies are very powerful, both the pause button and the subsequent steps there, as well as the interlacing of the fingers and looking at the 3 o'clock. Like, that's very interesting. So I will put links in the description. I'll find the ninja lady, maybe
Yeah.
with your help
Nervous
afterwards.
system ninja. And
we'll
there's
put
other people. So like if you don't relate to her, there's like Carl Calm and I don't know, there's a whole bunch out there that you can find. But the key is have techniques, have tools to regulate your nervous system.
Yes.
Right? And I do think, yes, it is work. And so the other piece that I've learned, Brandon, and maybe in your personal development is you have to have a very compelling why you're doing this. Otherwise, it's really hard on some days. But if you go, why? I am choosing to live differently. I am choosing not to eat in that way. I have a brighter picture of how I'm going to live my life out here, and I need to take a step today towards that or something. But if you don't have a really compelling why, then why would you change? I would say we don't change for change's sake. We have to. And so some people are like, I want to be a better dad. I got to be healthy. I had my kids at 40. I'm like, I need energy. Oh my gosh. I have to take care of myself because I want to be a vibrant mom for them. Whatever it is, what's your motivation? What's your big why? You're doing what you're doing. And that will help you get through the days where you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And then just the last thing that came into my mind is, and when you slip, meaning you don't do your desired way of doing it, bring a response of compassion. Do not shame, guilt, blame yourself. That is so unhelpful. That is another auto program that some of us have come with.
Yeah, absolutely.
You are human. You are human. And so just compassion. Next time, you'll be back making the decision at choice.
Powerful steps.
Yes.
And I know you work with people to make these changes in their life. So you have your program, which is called Heal Your Past and Free Your Future. Can you just give us an idea of what this looks like and for
Sure.
who it's best for, this coaching program that you bring people through?
Yeah, so this actually is a one-on-one experience. So it's not a community experience, but it's for people who really want to get at some of these past programs that are running, that are unconscious and getting in the way of them living the life that they want to live. And so it's 8 one-on-one coaching sessions with me that is a combination of coaching. We will do some of the nervous system work, we will do some energy rebalancing along the way, so that by the end of those 8 sessions, you have all the tools to handle the next thing you want to work on, the next thing you want to work on. Now, who's it well suited for? I would say people that are really interested in making a change. So you maybe already have a change you want to make in your lifestyle. You've tried a lot of different things and you feel like you continue to backslide, or you continue to get back to, it feels like square one, or you've gone to the whatever jail corner in Monopoly and you can't get out because you feel like, I don't know what else to try. This is a really good solution, because it could just be you need to close out those old stress loops, those old stress cycles, and create the right neural pathway signals so that you truly can rewire the brain, process old emotions, close out those tabs, and solidify your steps forward. So it is a one-on-one experience. I am working on a group version of that, because as we talked about, some people want to be in community. They're feeling a bit isolated. But I would view this as maybe like if you were going to pick up piano lessons, or you wanted to up your tennis game. So you're playing tennis, you love tennis, but you just want the focus, attention, and support and encouragement of a coach to kind of help you get to the next level. That's
Mm-hmm.
who this is for.
I love that comparison, that coaching is the same thing as you going to take a guitar lesson or a singing lesson or a tennis lesson. Like if you want to get better at something, including your emotions, including your communication, including navigating change, then it's important to invest in yourself to really take that next concerted effort towards making that a reality. And you've already given us so much when it comes to navigating that difficult change for someone who's in that cycle of life. And we're all going to experience change. We've all heard the quote, change is inevitable, but growth is optional. And you're
Yes.
providing the toolbox for that growth to be prevalent in our lives. So that's a beautiful thing, Stephanie. And for those who hear your program description and they're like, I want to know more about Stephanie and what she has to offer, and you share a lot on your social media, you're very active there now. So where's the best place for people to follow you and reach out to you?
So I do have a YouTube channel. It is Positive Change Acceleration. So I've used that. So you can just, if you like videos, and there's some short ones and some long ones, you can get easily accessible content on YouTube. I do have a website, and it is www.positivechangeacceleration.com. That's like the theme, because I want to help us accelerate the change. We don't, yes, it's work and we have to invest, but it doesn't have to take years. We really can make the shifts. I do have a LinkedIn group, and let me think of where else would be a great way. I do have a Facebook group, but right now that is for women only. So I was trying to think of wanting to make sure, because sometimes we have some unique things in our gender identity that would be helpful to support one another in the Facebook land. But yeah, I would say YouTube and my website is the best branching off point. And then you can actually learn about the books and the courses and a variety of other things available.
That's amazing. Stephanie, thank you for sharing a bit about your journey, coming on here, sharing these tips for everyone to take away and use immediately. And for those where it makes more sense, reach out to Stephanie, and links are in the description in order to start that conversation and check out her YouTube and all the other amazing things that she's doing. So thank you so much. It was great to meet you, and it's been great having you on the show.
Great to have you too. Meet you, I should say. And thank you for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. This has been a really awesome conversation with Stephanie about a real story of someone who confronted change head on due to necessity in recent history. And as a result, had to ask themselves the question, how am I going to survive? What am I going to do next? How can I get resourceful so that I can make this next chapter of my life the best chapter of my life? And Stephanie has shared her vast learnings over the past few years when it comes to the energy healing and really learning how to manage your emotions. And when it comes to emotional eating and the wine drinking and all those powerful things. And I hope that her vulnerability will help you to dive into where do you want to make shifts in your life or your career today. You have the tools to do so. And if you want more tools, go check out Stephanie's YouTube channel, her LinkedIn, and her other social medias in the description. Whatever one you hang out on, Stephanie will likely be there as well. If you took anything away from this conversation, all that we ask is you share this show with just one other person who could use it as well. You are the best part of the Be Better team, and we are grateful to you for that. Thanks so much for watching and listening. And until we talk again next time, continue to be better.